when I do a team like this, and it's really the same as I'm interested here in for you. And that was, what did God show you today? What did God teach you today? And the reason that question is important is because I'm afraid that many times as Christians, we just kind of move through our life each day, and we don't really look for God. We don't watch for his activity. We don't listen for his invitation to join him. And we live our life until we come to a place and a point in time, whether it be every day, whether it be once a week, whatever it is, and we stop and we say, God, I need you to do this. God, fix this for me. God, I need this. God, help me right here. That's not walking with Jesus. That's not walking in the Spirit. You see, we walk in the flesh, and then we expect God to come into that arena, into that world, and take care of us and do for us and fix us. But that's not walking in the Spirit. Walking in the Spirit is getting out of bed every morning and saying, Lord, I'm walking with you today. I'm going with you. Jesus, in John chapter 1, it tells us that he turned and there were two following him. And they said, Rabbi, where are you staying? And Jesus didn't answer the question. He didn't say, I'm staying at Peter's house today, or I'm staying with John, or I'm in Hotel Jerusalem, or I'm staying in my home. He didn't answer the question. He gave an instruction. You know what it was? 3 words. Come and see. You see, right there in those moments, we get some of the greatest teaching that Jesus ever gave us. It's not enough for us to know what Jesus is doing. It's not enough for us to know about his activity. It's not what he wanted. It's not what he intended. Jesus said to Philip, he said, come and see. That's walking in the Spirit. You don't get to know Jesus by reading your Bible. You don't get to know Jesus by praying and asking him for things. You don't get to know Jesus by coming to church, serving on a ministry team, going on a mission trip. You don't get to know Jesus in any of those ways. You get to know Jesus when you come and follow him and you walk with him every day. And that walking includes all of those things that I mentioned, but it is more than that. It is intimately more than that. When they inquired of him, he said, you come and watch. You come and see. When our feet hit the floor in the morning, he is asking, or he's saying the same thing to us he said 2,000 years ago to Philip. Come and see. And Philip began to walk daily with Jesus. And that's how he learned about Jesus. Every night I would ask this team, what did God show you? What did you see? They're going to share that with you.
Yeah, isn't it amazing how a man can find himself alone, calling to the darkness for an answer that he's never known. Yeah, isn't it amazing how God can take a broken man, yeah, let him find a fortune, let him ruin it with his own 2 hands. And he climbs on up the hill, on the rock on which he stands. He looks back at the crowd, he looks down at his hands and he says, I am a difference maker. Oh, I am a difference maker. Oh, I am the only one that speaks to him. And I am the friendliest of friends of God. Yeah, isn't it amazing how a man can find himself alone, calling to the darkness for an answer that he's never known. Yeah, isn't it amazing how a God can take a broken man? Yeah, let him find a fortune, let him ruin it with his own two hands. When he walks on up the hill to the rock on which he stands, he looks back at the crowd, he looks down at his hands and he says, I am the difference maker. Oh, I am the difference maker. Oh, I am the only one that speaks to him. And I am the friendliest of friends of God.
Let's go. Justin, go first.
Can I pass like Nick? Can I just smart. What part do you want me to share? Where do you want me to start?
Justin was a rock star in Haiti. We could have printed up flyers and posted them, Justin for president, and he would have won by a landslide. And that country would have never been the same. Remember the question, what did God teach you?
One thing I learned on the trip, which I just reinforced it, is that kids, adults, they just want to be loved. Just to spend time with you, to hang out with you, just to touch your beard and your tattoos or whatever. I mean, that's one thing God told me, is that they're no different than any of us, which I knew, but my American mind was thinking I can send a check to Haiti and that's good enough. That's not good enough, and I'm not here to, or any of us aren't here to save those people, And Ralph said it best. We're down here to partnership with them, and it's like I wish there was a better word than mission trip, because we're not on a mission to save anything or anybody. We're on a mission to show them, if they just had a small chance, if they had the opportunity that we had here, they'd blow us away. I think. It first hit me hard that I came into the team 2 weeks out. There was 2 weeks to go, literally 2 weeks from the day I left. And so there was a spot that opened, some things that happened, and Amy had found out that Saturday night before, and she said, you want to go to Haiti? And I was like, yeah. I mean, I do, but I was thinking on my own terms is what I thought. So we woke up Sunday morning. She's like, so what do you think about Haiti? And at this time, Kelly had been asked, I think, Audra's and Travis's sister-in-law. And I was like, well, I think somebody's asked. I kind of blew it off. She's like, well, I've been praying all night. You can go. I'm like, great. I mean, that was my reaction. And so we got here, and we were doing worship, and on that Sunday, and Travis turned around and was like, want to go to Haiti? And I was like, well, yeah, it'd be cool, but, Kelly's already been asked. And he goes, well, we're going to have an answer today, so if she's out, you're in. Got it? Like, that was pretty much like he was the enforcer. 11:56 on that Sunday, Audrey goes, all right, you're in. And so before that, I could tell a backstory of what God had done to make that happen, but that's even a longer story. So after that, I said, okay, I'm in. I got there Monday morning. I asked for the week off, no problem. I was like, got to get some money. It came in by the next week. Annie was excited that I could go. We were just going to take it out of my savings. I mean, it didn't matter to her. She's like wanting me to go. And then, so this whole time, like the first couple flights, I was like all the way towards the back. Everybody else is kind of up here because they're all together, and I was a last minute add-on. And so I'm like thinking that Monday morning, like, God, why do you have me on this trip? I don't understand. Like they had all planned together. They went to each other's houses. They had done like the lesson together. They had done they had all these plans. And they had done it for months. And I had given to help fund that. But that's money. That's where, And so the second flight, there was some room, but it was going to Miami, and it was in the morning. It was early in the morning, even early for me. And we're at the airport, and I get on the plane, and like there's nobody back by me hardly. And Ralph's like, come up here, and I was like, no, I'm okay, because I kind of wanted to pray and think to myself. And then Gavin looked back, and he was like, he came on back there by me because I was by the window. So we talked for a little bit, then he moved up, and just looking out at the sky, as the sun rose, going to Miami, I'm like, okay, this is the day. Why am I here? And then we get on plane to Cape Haitian, we get into Cape Haitian, go to the, meet Jacqueline, you have no idea what he does for New Hope Mission. If I could even explain it, I would explain it, but I can't. I mean, he's such an amazing guy. His people he has work with him are amazing. I mean, with what they have, the resources they have, they do so many amazing things for our churches and our schools that would blow your mind. It's crazy. So we get to the compound, and I'm still like, We're divided up rooms, and Brandon's like, "You got a power strip? You're with me," because Brandon had lost his luggage, and or they had forgot his and Audrey's at that point. So we're in the room, and we go to Lemonade to kind of figure out what we're going to do with boxes and get some stuff, some plans going, because we didn't really have nothing that day, correct? Because we were going to go into the market, which we did later. But so we get there, the kids are amazing. I lost my glasses within 2 minutes because I dropped them, and Charlie picked them up like mine, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, like, what do you say, to a little boy, like, and so Ralph said, let's go see the church after a little bit, and we walked over to the church, and we get inside the church, and there's a drum set that I took a picture of that I have for me, because that's where God opened my eyes, really, which is weird because the kids were awesome, but
Megan, can you find that drum set for me, please? There it is.
right there, I sat down, and I don't know who said, maybe it was Ralph, said, play it. I started to play it, and I don't know how to explain it, but it like instantly was I'm pretty sure my whole demeanor probably looked weird, because Audrey made this comment later. She gave me a hug that night and told me, that she loved me and that she was glad I was on the team. And but that's where it's like I am so picky about the stuff I play. I'm so picky about the way my drums sound. I'm so picky about the brand of drums I have. I'm so picky about all this stuff, and they worship on this every Sunday, and it doesn't matter. Every Sunday they play on this set, and I wouldn't have that for a practice set. Now that was then. That's the way I thought. I would have thrown that away and burnt it or something. So that's when Ralph said, see what God's doing. So that broke my heart, and I didn't say anything. I kind of kept to myself, and about 20 minutes later, I was standing there with Audrey and Ralph under the tree, and he goes, pretty humbling, isn't it? And it's like, I was like, yeah, but I couldn't even talk like now. And so I thought about, like, what are we going to do, or what am I going to do? We sponsor a kid, and I got to meet him, and he's amazing. But that was when the first thing God's like, okay, this is all I brought you. So what are you going to do about it? What are you going to go home and do through all the resources I've given you to give these people the same opportunity or the same resources? And then the whole week was totally different and amazing. I mean, just from getting to hang out with Wayne Darrison, which is the boy Annie and I sponsor. This is his last year, and just, getting to meet him and hang out with him and his family. His mom brought all her kids. His mom was kind of a mess and is kind of straightened up, I think, now for the better. Brought all her kids just to say thank you for sponsoring him, because it helps their whole family, not just go to school. It helps their family. Into that, and then we went to the palace, kind of looked around, and his aunt Fifi is a translator, and later she told me we were at the palace. He took a bite of his lunch, which may be the only meal he gets that day, gave it to his friends, and said, I'm going to go hang out with my buddy. I don't know what he said, but he said, I'm going to go hang out with him. He gave up that to hang out with me just because I was there. And I don't have a son. I have all girls, so that was kind of cool. I told him earlier, I was like, I only have girls. You're my only son. I mean, that's, and, but another thing is, like, when the people realize, like Jacqueline, John, and Junior realize, like, they do a lot for us. They do a lot for their churches, but when they see that you're there as friends, it's totally different, because the thing that their culture is, they hold hands. When men hold hands when they talk or they walk to show affection, that they love them. That's their culture. And I saw that, and I was like, why in the world are they holding hands? I mean, that's my first thought. And then I learned why. And when we were coming down to the palace, Junior, one of our translator, he came on this side of me, grabbed my hand, and at first I tensed up because it was just different for me. But then instantly it was like, I knew he knew I loved him. I knew he knew I was his friend. And that was a good thing. That was important for me too, that they knew all this, Blanc tattooed, bearded guy isn't down here to do anything for us. He's here to work with us.
Yeah.
And I got the opportunity to go with Jacqueline a couple times and just help him do stuff in boxes, which it was amazing too because I learned a lot. And I could go on, but I need to pass. I mean, if I could, like I said, if I could explain everything in a word besides amazing, I would, but I can't. There's nothing that I can't think of.
Yeah.
You have to go. And then now it's like I got home and Annie was excited. I had text and then some stuff, so I was able to contact her a little bit throughout the week. And I just told her, I forgot what I told her. I told her, if I ever cry or whine or moan about anything that I have ever again or I want, just slap the tar out of me. I mean, seriously. And then all the text I get back is, thanks for getting it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what she wanted me to see, it's all. And now it's like, me and Travis had a good talk from Miami to Dallas. And we're going to hopefully hit the ground running to figure out what we can do for the churches to get them better musical equipment so they can worship God.
Yeah.
What we can do wherever we're needed. So I'm excited to do that. I'm not this. Audrey had sent a Facebook thing out. I don't have Facebook, but Annie does. So it's about the 4 feelings after a missions trip, and I read them, and I am exhausted. And then there's the depression sets in, and I'm going to try to skip that part because I'm going to be proactive to do where it says, pretty much what are you going to do about it? Like, are you going to do something? So, through all that, and I got to go with most of the guys in the band, which is amazing, Travis I've grown up with forever, and he's like my brother. Gavin, he was 6 months old whenever he first came here, so he is like my little brother. And to do that together was amazing to me too. But that was like the bottom of my list because and no offense, I love you guys. But because there's so many other amazing things that happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to pass now because I'll.
All right.
Yeah, because we had her, one of her family Christmases yesterday. And Travis goes, that's going to be rough on you tomorrow. You realize that, right? And I'm like, yeah, it might be. And I found myself enjoying the family time together way better than anything else. I don't see them often. And, but it was fun, and usually, to put myself under the bus, family time, like that stuff is not fun for me. I don't enjoy it. This is the first time in a long time I enjoyed it. So that was a lesson too, that their family and friends are so important to help each other. Yeah. The way Jacqueline told me that if they have a need in the church, they help each other. We do that here too, but they come together and do it.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. We'll bounce back and forth.
So my main thing that I was reminded of constantly this week was, I just forgot. Give me a second. That I need to find the joy in little things. My main job was face painting and doing nails. Last time I went, I was doing the lesson, so I didn't really get a lot of hands-on experience with a lot of the kids. But this time I touched hundreds of kids. I was with them the whole time for 3 hours every school. So the smile that they had on their faces when they got done with their nails was something that I'm not going to forget, because for me, I go get my nails done every 2 weeks just because that's what I do. But for them, that's something that maybe me doing their nails was the first time they've ever gotten their nails done. But like just seeing the smile on their faces for some of the things that they've, like opening their Christmas boxes. I got to see Brett and Lauren's kid open their Christmas box, and she went through it 4 or 5 different times just to see if she missed anything. She had a bunch of different headbands, and this, like her smile on her face, that was awesome. Or a little bouncy ball. We played with that, and it lit up, and she held it in her hand the whole entire time. But just to see the smiles on their faces, and to not take things like getting my nails done every 2 weeks because I have the money to do that. I have all that nail polish in my house. I can do it whenever I wanted, and they can't. But just to not take that stuff for granted.
Gavin?
For those of you who know Travis and Taylor and Justin and I really like soccer. I mean, we watch Sporting Kansas City all the time, and soccer is a huge part of, one of our hobbies. And so this week I got to play. I got to play a lot of soccer. Got to have a ball in my foot a lot. And towards the end of the week, the very last school we went to in Belay, Junior, which you've seen pictures of, he's the guy wearing the stocking hat. He was one of the translators, and he works for New Hope and helps out a lot. And me and him had really started to connect and kind of hit it off and everything like that. And we were outside, and I'm filming games, and he walks up to me and taps me on the shoulder, and and he goes, one of the high school boys wants to ask you something. And so I said, okay. And so he starts translating for me, and he says they want to challenge the white Americans to a soccer game, and the winner gets to keep the ball. And
I told him, I said, it's not going to end good for you.
And we were already going to leave soccer balls with him and everything like that. And I told him, okay, I was like, we got to make sure we got all the film stuff done and things like that. But I told him we'd be back. So we ended up going out there, and before it was all over, Jacqueline and Junior were on the team I was on, and we kept playing, and we ended up scoring a goal, which that was a miracle in itself that I was just in the right spot. And we scored it. I scored the goal because Jacqueline crossed it right. But all of the I have no idea what the Haitian high school guys were saying. They kept saying American a lot. I don't know if it was a good comment or a trash talking or what. But after we were done, Travis yelled and said, we're leaving. And I walked over, and I just kept saying, merci, merci, thank you for, let me play and everything like that. And all of them walked over and started giving me high fives and everything like that. And I don't know what else they're saying, but the fact that even though we have no idea most of the time of what they're trying to say and what they're saying, that we can still meet each other on equal ground. And going down there, like Justin said, we really can't do anything for them. There's too much to do. And the fact that I have touched these people, with my hands, and they've touched me, and there's no difference between them and us. And
right.
For us to go down and think that we can do anything for them is like Bill Gates coming here and patting us on the head and feeling sorry for us because of how poor we are compared to them. And the only difference between us and them is how much money they have. And in all honesty, I told everybody this at the meeting one night. I was like, I'm kind of dreading coming back and having to hang out with Americans again because, in all honesty, y'all are just jerks most of the time, and that's myself included. Until you meet these people, they are so generous and friendly, and they will help you. I had a girl that I don't even know how old she was, but she was about that tall. She had just gotten her nails painted, so she was flipping out excited about that she got her nails painted. She wanted to show me, and I looked at her and I said Belle, which is beautiful, and she flipped her hand over and she handed me she handed me a Haitian dollar, and she gave it to me. And I was blown away, and I was like, no. And I gave it back to her, and she was walking around, and she just wanted, it was like she wanted to give it to somebody. And it's just mind-blowing how generous these people are. And I could go on, forever and tell all sorts of stories that other people are going to tell too. But on the way home from the airport, Megan and I were driving, and I was talking to her the whole way home, and I pulled into Liberty, and I just got quiet, and she was still talking. I don't think she'd realized it yet, but I was losing it bad. And we pulled into the apartment. I just sat there, and I leaned over and hugged her, and I started bawling. And I'm like, with Jacqueline and Junior and John, I was like, they're not just people. I was like, I feel like I'm away from my brothers now. And it's hard because they're family now. And I wish that you guys could hold the people we held and touch the people we held, and just understand what it's like.
Katie.
One thing that really stood out to me, something that God showed me, was that happiness has nothing to do with money.
Amen.
In this country, they have nothing, and they are way happier than any person in this room. When I came home and I was brushing my teeth, and I put water in my mouth, and it felt like I was doing something wrong, because the water there, they can't drink. We couldn't drink any of the water. In the shower, we couldn't let it touch our mouths. Everything there is unusable. For us, we can't use any of the water. And to see that something like face painting and them seeing themselves in a mirror made them so happy, it was just humbling, I guess, like everyone else has said. Because they don't get to see themselves. Sometimes they don't even recognize what they look like, because they don't ever see themselves. And these girls were it was just, everyone there was so gracious and happy. And at first, like when we were riding around in the truck, of course we would get weird looks, because there's 15 Blancs riding around in the back of a little truck, all squished in. And then as soon as you say bonjour, bonsoir, and if you wave or smile, they immediately change their tune, and they're just happy to see you, and they know that you're there to help and to be their friend and not be anything negative. So I think that this was an experience that is going to change my life. I am grateful for everything that I have, and I know that God handpicked me to come to Haiti, and to do everything I could to, I guess they shared their happiness with me. They taught me something, not me teaching them.
Brandon.
First off, for me, I'm a self-proclaimed back pew Baptist. I like working behind the scenes, so being on this stage right now, I am like a shredded emotional mess. So I stayed up pretty late last night writing out exactly what I want to say, or I would lose my train of thought worse than Justin just did. Gotta start out with humor so I don't cry too. This week I got to sit on and record interviews with 5 pastors in Haiti, and these are the pastors that pretty much do everything in the church. Their dedication to the church and its people is absolutely outstanding. They'll give everything they have, and not to feel important about it, but just because they want to further the growth of their church and the people in it. So the money they make all goes back into their vision for that church. And when they explained why they do what they do, I realized that God's been preparing me for this moment for 5 years, since I basically joined Break the Fall and then started coming here. So before leaving for this trip, I was reading a devotional about what does it mean to be called into ministry. And one of the quotes was, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called.
Amen.
And one of the pastors said almost the exact same thing. And I told these guys after it, and it might have been in a different language and translated and not at all summed up as simply as that quote was, but it was there. And God used that to show me that I wasn't put into the position I am here at VCU because of what I was capable of, but because of what he knew I would be capable of in the future.
Amen.
And so my lesson really is for everyone, because these churches in Haiti are the definition of a church, and the people in the church really are servants. And you can ask yourself the same questions that I had to ask myself after that last interview that we did with Pastor Duxon. It's, what things do we have to do that are more important than being before God? What time is greater than the time we spend before God? And if you don't take the initiative to invest in the church, then how is God going to be able to qualify you?
That's right. Amen. Good job, man. Caleb. It's funny when somebody with a southern Arkansas accent tries to speak Creole, and the translators make fun of him.
We. Yeah, I'm the only one here that's not from this church, not from Missouri. So I knew what you meant, Justin, when we were on the way down. I felt kind of the same way. And I got down there, and I feel like what God showed me more than anything was love, and not like the emotional, like puppy love, like unconditional love. These people, I feel closer, especially to our 3 translators, in a week than to some of my friends back home, which is sad. He showed me so much about what the right way is. All these material things that I have don't mean anything. I mean, it's hard. You know that as a Christian, but it really reaffirms what it doesn't matter. These people are way below what we would call poor in America. And they are the happiest, most loving people I've ever met. They're the closest thing to what it says in the Bible about being like Jesus that I've ever met. They love you unconditionally, and that's the only way I know how to describe it, is that they love you unconditionally.
Dave?
I was blessed by God to be able to set in on these pastor interviews. It wasn't really part of my job description, but Brandon made up a job for me so I could sit there. And I think, to me, that was the most amazing thing that I saw and learned while I was down there, because I sat in the presence of great men of God like what we read about in the Bible.
Yeah.
I met a pastor who's got a congregation of over 400 people. And in that whole congregation, one man had a job. And he's serving 400 people. I met a pastor that would do baptisms. And Ralph was telling us that 70% of the people in Haiti are involved in voodoo in one way or another. And he said that sometimes when he would baptize somebody, he could see the physical manifestation of evil spirits leaving these people. Ralph asked one of these pastors what it was that stuck out to him that God had spoken to him specifically about. What was important that God had said to him on a personal level lately. And the pastor looked back confused. And it's not so much that he didn't understand the question, but he had such a close walk with God that if he didn't hear from God that day, specifically to him, he thought there was something wrong with him.
Yeah.
Every day God was talking to him, sometimes multiple times a day. And I look at my life and I think back of those times where God has spoken to me directly in a way that I understood that this is a message from God, and I pick up a handful of them. And he would be upset if he didn't hear from God that day. I met a pastor that, like David, was told he's too young to serve God. He's not qualified to serve God. And he said, no, God will qualify me. And this pastor also has a congregation of over 400 people that he serves. But he's too young for that. So in his free time, he runs a school. But he's too young for that.
Okay. So, on this trip, God taught me that we can't look down on these people because they're poor.
Yeah.
We have to look at them as equals.
That's right.
And as friends. So, we were at Boss Aviation, and we just got done at the school. And Ralph said that he wanted us to experience Haiti. So, we started walking around the streets of Boss Aviation. As we were walking, the kids that we call street kids would just look at us and decide that they wanted to come along. So they would just come up, grab our hands, and walk wherever we were going with us. This little boy, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7, came up and grabbed my hand and walked with me most of the trip. And there was this big puddle, and he ran through it, and he was barefoot, and I ran through it with him because he dragged me through, and I was upset because my shoes were muddy and I was muddy. And
Explain what was in that mud, though. Wasn't just a mud puddle.
oh my,
They use a 5-gallon bucket in the Boss Aviation area. It's a very poor ghetto type of environment. And they usually in a corner, they have a 5-gallon bucket with a board that they place over it to try to control the odor of it. And that's what they use in the bathroom. There's no place to dispose of it. So where do they dispose it? It's in the street.
okay. So I was upset, not upset, but I just ran through that stuff. He ran through it as well, but he was barefoot. Anyway, and he saw that I was upset, so he licked his hand, he picked up my foot, and he started cleaning off my shoes. And I don't know, I told him not to do that, and I didn't deserve that. We got back, and we were in the meeting, and we were talking about this, and this is what I talked about. And Ralph asked me a question. He was like, he ran through the puddle too, right? I'm like, yes. He was like, would you pick up his foot and clean off his foot? And honestly, I wouldn't. And it was just hard. It was very, very hard.
Teresa.
Oh, that's hard to follow. Every night when we would sit around and Ralph would ask us, what did God show you? I kind of felt like I was on repeat because it always seemed like I had the same thing to say. And as I've gotten home and was trying to process all of this yesterday and even this morning, walking around practicing what I was going to say, talking to myself, I looked like a fool this morning, but what God has shown me is He wanted to take me outside of the walls. He wanted to show me what was on the other side of the wall. So as we're in the schools, in this description, that's the walls. Seeing the kids was amazing. But when we walked through the towns of Boss, and I got to see outside of the walls where those kids were, you knew that they were being fed at least one meal, and they were clothed in their uniforms. walking in Boss, I got to see the neighborhood that our little girl would be from. And I don't know, maybe we even passed her house, but it was just very, God wanted me to see outside these walls. And he showed me this in 3 distinct times. And one was in Boss, walking through the streets. And the second is when we went to Milo. And I was so excited that I was going to get to walk our little boy home from school. And seeing the terrain that he walked in, and just knowing that this is the route that Nervins takes every day back and forth to school. And he had to stop several times and wait for us to catch up with him because the terrain was just slippery and steep,
And we're fat and out of shape.
And as he walks us up the last little bit to his home, I think all of us thought the same thing of, just wow. We got to witness 4 generations sitting on his front porch, which is very rare for Haiti. We got to see Nervins, and we met his mom and his grandma and his great-grandmother. And I got to experience all this with my earthly family and my church family. And Ralph asked Dave as we were getting ready to leave to pray for them. And like I shared in our circle time, when a husband prays for his wife and the family, there's something very, very secure to that. You feel secure. And for my husband to be praying with our family and our Haitian family brought that to a whole new level. The third time that God showed me the other side of the wall, I think this was in case he knows me well. In case you didn't catch this the first time, Teresa, I'm going to show this to you again. But this time I'm going to show you in reverse. And it was our last day that we kind of got to do touristy stuff. And 2/3 of our team went to the Citadel. And the other third of us went to Lebedi. And as I'm walking the beach in Lebedi and I'm seeing this gorgeous cruise ship, I have my shoes off and I'm actually walking in this pristine sand. I just couldn't help but sitting there going, okay, God, I get it. I know what's on the other side of that wall. Mm-hmm. And I honestly don't think I can go any place again without wondering what's on the other side of that wall.
Haley.
So this last trip, not this trip, but the one before, after I left, I couldn't help but wondered if we made an impact, if the kids would remember who we were or what we talked about. Because honestly, half the time I don't even remember what we talked about last time. So we went to Boss Aviation, and last time I was there was a little girl who clung to me the whole time. She wouldn't leave my side. We took pictures, and I didn't know if I was going to see her, but she's the one that stood out to me whenever I was in Boss Aviation last time. And I got out of the tap and walked 2 steps into the school, and we saw each other, and her face lit up, and she ran over and gave me a hug, and I instantly gave Dave my camera and made him take a picture of us. And God just showed me that we made an impact last time that the kids remembered. I don't know. It was just a really neat experience.
Aaron.
What happened to going back to the other side?
Remember what I said about going to Haiti? You do what I tell you when I tell you, with no hesitation and ask no questions.
Well, there's a lot of things that I could sit here and talk about. But last time when we got back, I shared a story with you guys, and you might remember, about our sponsor child, Nuvelda. And it's really hard for me to talk about even today, even though this was 2 years ago, because it made such an impact on me. But I hung out with her all day, and she told me all day that she was thankful for my family and the money that we sent to her, and that fact that we prayed for her every day and everything. And as we were getting ready to leave, she sat me down on the ground and held out her hand and wanted me to wait there. And so I just sat on the ground like by myself for a little bit. And around the corner she appeared with Junior, one of our translators. And she asked him if she could give me a hug. And of course I said yes. And so I stood up and she gave me a hug, and then as we were getting ready to, separate, she gave me a kiss on the cheek, and that was really emotional for me because that's something that I knew then that she was so thankful. Like, it wasn't just something on the outside of her saying, like, she felt like she needed to do it because that was the right thing to do. It was real, and I just kind of sat on the ground like, what just happened to me, like crying and everything. And so that's what happened last time. And so jump ahead 2 years and the story picks up again. And we got to her school, which is Belay, and it's way out in the middle of the bush. There's absolutely nothing there. And I walked into the school, and I was looking for her, and I couldn't find her at first. And so I started walking around the whole room, and she was sitting on the end of a bench with some of the other kids. And when I looked down at her, she kind of looked up at me and like smiled a little bit. And then I looked back at her, and she realized that I remembered who she was, and she got instantly happy because she knew that I remembered her. And so I sat there on the bench with her for a while, or on the ground because there wasn't enough room on the bench. They can sit the length of like 3 chairs. They can fit like 50 of them on that. And so I was sitting on the ground, and Ralph was like, hey, come over here and stand by us in the middle of the church because they had a presentation for us. And they started playing a bunch of songs and everything, and one of them was Above All, and I really liked that song a lot. And she started singing it, and I stood there and watched her worship and thought about how if this little girl can worship so much better, it seems, than I ever have been able to, and she barely understands these words. And all of this is kind of really scattered because I just jumped from talking about her and how she remembers me to the way that she worships, but all of it is so overwhelming. It almost seems like you don't know how to organize it. But after we got finished with the program and everything, she was by my side for the rest of the day and drug me around all over the school and was literally showing me off to her friends.
Look at what I got, a blanc, my own. I got my own blanc. But her mom would not let her keep him because we are too expensive to maintain.
And I got out my camera and taught her how to take pictures on the camera, and she was so excited she took pictures of me and thought it was great that she could show me what I looked like. And then she put the camera back in my pocket because I guess she was done with that. And then she pointed at her fingernails, and they didn't have paint on them, so we had to go paint them. And I was sitting there painting her fingernails and everything, and then it just hit me again. And I was like, she saw me and remembered me, and I knew that I was going to remember her, but I didn't realize how important it was to her that she saw me again. So I guess the moral of the story is don't place your own amount of worth on something because you don't know how impactful it can really be.
Amen. Taylor.
Oh boy.
Taylor's the only guy I know who get 21 soccer balls in a suitcase.
Yeah, that was awesome. But no, as you noticed, I've been coughing up here, and don't do that. And I went into this trip with a sinus infection. You know, I was sick, and my mom, before I went, she told me, she's like, "You're not going to be any fun on this trip if you're sick." And I told her, I was like, "I'm not missing out on this trip. I've waited too long to go." And I noticed when we were at Boss, we were walking through the streets, and it was in the afternoon, and my head was just full, like, of sinus pressure, and I just didn't feel good, and all I wanted to do was just, like, go take some medicine and just relax, I guess. And as we're walking through the streets, a boy came up to me, and he reached out to hold my hand, and I looked at him and said no. And the whole time, I've been thinking about that, of how selfish that was for me to put my own sickness from him. And so I realized that, you know, I need to learn to love the people that are around me, even if I don't know them that well. And so when we went to our school out in Belay, where our sponsor child is, I was excited to meet her. And I was looking for her, and once I found her with her box, you know, we took our picture, and if you know, I'm the baby of the family, so I've been pretty much babied my whole life. And and to her, like, I got to feel like a big brother, and I got to experience that for like the first time. And I wanted to help her with everything that she did, and I like ripped open her box, and we were going through her box together. And you know, once we got done going through her box, she kind of walked off, and we're sitting there at the end of the day, just kind of, we're eating a snack, and all of a sudden she comes back up to me, and then she pulls me off to the side, and I got to meet her entire family there. And her mom told me that this was her last year that we get to sponsor her, and immediately, like, the big brother instinct kicked in on how am I supposed to take care of this family. And the little girl that I'm holding, I asked immediately, I was like, is she sponsored? And the answer was no, and I looked at the mom in the face and I said, don't you worry, because we will pick her up. You don't have to worry about whether or not these kids are going to eat. We will take care of that. And it was amazing for me to be the support for that family instead of someone supporting me. And I just want to say thanks to everybody for this trip, because as you can see, it made a big impact on all of us. And I usually don't cry like this, but I can't really help it. I don't think any of us really do. But from the bottom of our hearts, we dearly appreciate it.
I've intentionally waited to let Travis and Audra close this out because they both have been in the country before. And I'm witnessing a passing of a baton. And so I want them to finish this out.
That's pretty
One
tough.
One is obviously prettier than the other.
That is a nice beard. This trip was it was different. It's really hard to sit up here and watch people that I care about struggle to deal with emotions that either they haven't had in a long time or maybe have never felt this way about people that they don't know. But just watching people that I care about struggle to put into words what we experience, it's a little rough. This trip for me was a little different because kind of Brandon was kind of in charge of everything video that was going to happen. And we had a job to go down there and do, and to video the Christmas boxes and the kids, and then also the pastor's interviews, which I honestly, before, and Brandon being in charge of that kind of pulled me in, and we started working a few months ago on him teaching me how to run a camera and figure all that stuff out so that he wouldn't be doing it all. So that was kind of my job, and you can kind of see I'm holding a big contraption there in that picture with a camera on top of it. And so I carried that thing around everywhere. And so immediately when we got down there, it was a little different because everything that I'm seeing is coming through the lens of a camera. And I don't have the perspective of the big panoramic view that you get when you can step back and look and see everything that's going on. So it was a little different feel for me because I'm looking and trying to find stuff that needs to be recorded and needs to be remembered. And as I talked to Brandon one night, we stayed up and kept Justin up way too late one night. He tried to pretend like he was sleeping, but I'm pretty confident he was awake over there. But we started talking about what we're doing and why we're down here doing it, and just what we hoped would happen with the videos. And the biggest thing that I could think of was that I really hope that through the cameras and through the videos that we get, that we're able to show people what it's like down there and what needs to be done. And then I told him later, I said, man, I said it's hard because you have a job and you're trying to focus on what's going on, but I really hope that later when we go through all this video, that it's a way for me to be able to remember all the moments that happened. So that's hopefully what can be accomplished through these videos, is that the experiences that we had, the ones that we're sharing this morning, will be remembered, so that it's not forgotten, and it wasn't just an experience, but it's something that changes who we are.
Yeah.
For me, I'm kind of like Dave. When Dad had been telling us we were doing these pastors' interviews, that was kind of the least important thing, as far as in my mind, to worry about how to do right, because I knew from working with Brandon that we could do an interview. Like it's not that big a deal because the person that we're trying to shoot is staying in one spot. we're telling him where to set, so we know where to get the cameras. We know how to adjust. I mean, we can adjust the lighting. We can make that happen. So from a technical perspective, I wasn't worried about that because it should have been the easiest thing that we did the whole week. But what I didn't expect was the content of the videos to have that much impact on me. And the one thing that I realized that seemed to be a recurring theme for all of the pastors was the level of dependence on God is something I've never experienced in my life. And I don't know that I will be able to, because of the privilege that I live in here in America. And as I listen to them talk, it was so humbling to listen to them discuss what they have to deal with and the difficulties that they have and the blessings that God has given them, and how it seemed like when there was questions that they couldn't answer as far as to how will you get this done, or what do you need and how will it happen, at the end of almost every one of their responses, it was, God will take care of it, or God will provide, or God's will be done. And I think sometimes we say that, but I think at least from my perspective, sometimes I say that, but then in the back of my mind I'm thinking, but if he doesn't, then I'll just work some overtime, or we'll figure out a way and I'll just pay for it, or we'll make it happen, or I'll just take some time out of my day and go do it. And they don't have that crutch that I have to be able to lean on because of the affluence that we live in. They truly depend on God for everything.
Amen.
And the level of faith that those men have, it's like Dave said, it's biblical. I mean, it's the stories that you read about of the men that are backed against a wall in a battle, and they have nowhere to go and no way out, and then God gives them a way out. And as I think about these men and what they're dealing with this morning, with witch doctors and voodoo practitioners around their churches that may be disturbing their services this morning and trying to stir up trouble within their church. And I think, how are these guys going to get this done?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how will it happen? Because it's easy to see what needs to be done, but then it just seems so huge. And at the end of the day, they just trust that God's going to take care of what they need.
Amen.
And there was one story in particular, and I remembered it because I think it's similar to what some of my stories when we first were married and trying to figure out, how to afford things and what was going to happen. But his daughter his two kids go to school at a fairly nice school, and it's pretty expensive. And they're trying to afford to pay to get their kids into school. The best we could tell through the translators was it was around $1,500 US a semester, which is a ton. Each pastor makes $300 a month, so $3,000 a year for school, $300 a month for salary, and they all have to do other things to make it, obviously. But he said that they didn't. It was time for one of their children to take the exam at the end of the semester, and unless they paid the tuition, the school wouldn't let them take the exam, so they wouldn't have been able to pass that grade. And it came all the way down, and he talked about how he prayed for it, and he prayed about it, and it came all the way down to the very last day before the exam, and then the money showed up. And he almost acted like it wasn't a big surprise. Like it was almost like when he was praying, he was talking about he was just waiting in anticipation for how God was going to take care of this issue. And it just, I know there's some of us here that have had those experiences of we're not sure how things are going to get paid for and how we're going to make it or what's going to happen. And it was really amazing to see the similarities and to see the way that they approach their difficulties versus the way that sometimes we do, where we try to handle it on our own instead of allowing God to take care of us and depending on Him.
Amen.
Well, a lot of the stories that I had on my mind to share have already been shared. So, but one that has stuck in my mind was I was also able to be a part of the pastor interviews. And one of the pastors, I think one of the questions was, what's one of the biggest difficulties or whatever?
Challenges that you face.
Yeah, challenges that they face. And it was the same pastor that Dave said that in his congregation he has one man that has a job. And he said whenever he first started there, he went out into the streets to evangelize, to try to bring people in the church. And 15 people got saved that day that he went out. And only 7 of them can come to church because the others don't have any clothes or shoes to wear to come to church. And they want to come. I mean, he said they want to come, but they can't. And, I think of how many excuses do we give why we don't come to church. I'm tired. I don't want to get up that early. I don't want to listen to Ralph preach for an hour. I mean, and they so desperately want to come, but they don't have clothes or shoes to wear to make it happen. And I don't know. I mean, of course, all of us are think of our material things a lot less now than what we did. And I don't know. I just want to personally thank all the people in this church that made this trip happen for us, because you have all had a piece in changing all of our lives.
That's right.
And I mean, we couldn't have gone if it wasn't for you guys. And I just thank you so much, and I'm glad that Annie has a new husband now. And I don't know, it was just pretty awesome.
Are you going to talk? Because I would like to talk about the Mardi Gras and the
Go
youth
ahead.
retreat.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so now that we've all cried and told our stories, here comes the sales pitch. And I'm not even ashamed about it. So, one of the things that happens here in about 2.5 to 3 weeks, February 14th, I think is when they said it was. They
14th through the 18th.
14th through the 18th. It's about a week, a little bit longer, but Mardi Gras hits down there in Haiti. And for those of you who are familiar with Mardi Gras in like New Orleans, imagine that with more alcohol.
Lots of alcohol on steroids.
It would be about 10 times what Mardi Gras is. So what we found out this time was, and we got a letter from Pastor Guito from Boss Aviation, who is our kind of our inner city school. And then we also had one of the other pastors who did the pastor's interview comment on the same thing. And what the churches like to do is they like to get together and they like to be able to get their kids and their students, and they like to take them on a retreat to get them out of the city so that they're not around the Mardi Gras celebrations. The problem is they need to be able to they need to be able to transport the kids. They need to be able to feed them a couple times a day, and then they also need to be able to provide other people to help work at the camp. So it's almost like a summer camp for us. But basically it's during Mardi Gras, and they want to get them away from everything that's happening at Mardi Gras so that they can go out. We don't have a clue how much it costs. And there wasn't a whole lot of information that we could get going the other way. All we know is they need some money to be able to make it happen. And it's coming up in 3 weeks, and when we started thinking about it, it was like, this is going to be really quick. There's not, we could do another coffee shop night, or we could do something like that so that everybody could get together and do a fundraiser. We just don't have enough time. So I don't know if it'll take a couple $100. I don't know if that'll get it done. I really don't know. We have the ability to wire transfer money in, so we can get money to them within a day. That's not a problem. We can make it happen. So what I'm going to ask is, I would like for us to take up something small. Whatever you feel like, God's leading you to do. I would like to ask that we try to take care of that, or at least pitch in to help them be able to do this. In the future, because I have a lot of ties to church camps, because I've been around them a lot, I'm going to go and I'm going to talk to the boards, and I'm going to find out if there is any interest in the church camps that we sponsor, like the ones that we send our kids to, in trying to come up with some sort of a fundraiser or something on the side, to where part of our tuition that we pay to send our kids to camp would then be divvied up and then sent down there, so that every year something could be set up annually where there's some support, so these churches can then send their kids to camp. So like when I send my son and daughter to church camp, $5 of that entry fee or to get them registration fee would then be pulled off and put into an account, and then would be shipped down there so that they could go to camp. So we'd actually be supporting 2 camps at the same time. I'm gonna try to contact our junior camp and our tri-state and a couple of the other camps that I've either spoke at or familiar with in the area, and see if we can't get this done on an annual basis. But for right now, we have 3 weeks, so there's not enough time to get all that done. So that's my sales pitch for the day. And as you guys know, I've always been involved pretty heavily in camps. And when the pastors came to us and asked us it seemed like an obvious, this is God laying this before you. What are you going to do with it now? So I'm the messenger. God gave me the message. I'm laying it before you. So.
I believe that God is beginning to reveal a vision to us, to this team, to BTF. I don't know how that's all working out yet. I believe the Lord is just giving us a glimpse of something that we can do. This is something that will be on a very grand scale. It will be something that will be bigger than anything we've ever done in Haiti before. But I know that God is a God that works in the impossible. And so I'm going to ask you to be praying about a future event. We have 4 schools, 5 churches. We do a lot of work in and through those schools. But the vision that I believe that God may be revealing to us, and I don't know exactly how it's going to work, and that is there are thousands of street kids down there that aren't connected to church at all on any level. And I spent the afternoon or early evening on the phone with Brent about this idea. And I said, Brent, I think God is leading us here. I think this is something that we need to be praying about. But I believe the Lord is doing something that will be apart and aside from our churches. And it will focus on street kids. And I said, there are 2 things in a Haitian's DNA: soccer and music. And we have just toyed with this idea of loading equipment, transporting it to Haiti or to Florida, getting it on a plane. It would have to be like an MFI flight, a missionary flight, so that this equipment's protected and safe. Flying that into Haiti and taking in the band, soccer people, coordinating and networking with Haitians, scheduling soccer games and even tournaments throughout the week that would start in the morning at like 8 o'clock and run all day long. At night, doing a music concert, and then bringing our Haitian pastors in, each one of them, to preach to street people. People that are heavily entrenched in voodooism and have nothing to do with the church. There is a soccer field down there in Barbaton between Cap-Haïtien and Milo. And they have, in the time that I have been absent from Haiti, built a wall, put bleachers in, and have lighting. This thing is nice. I was shocked when we drove by it. I thought, that used to be a field where they kept donkeys tied to trees, and they put goals at the end of it and played soccer in this. And they've done a very, very nice job. I don't know what it'll take to get that field, but I can envision thousands being there each night. It wouldn't surprise me to see 1,000 people converge on that field, either to participate in playing soccer or to watch the game throughout the day. Being there for the music, being there for the preaching at night. Now, this is a grand deal, and I don't know if it'll ever come to fruition, but I really believe the Lord may be starting to plant this seed to do something on a grand scale on the northern end of the island of Haiti. And I'm going to ask you to just pray about it. That's as far as we have right now. But Brent says, I'm excited about it. I can see it happening. We can do this. And so we're going to start to look at that. We're going to start to plan. But it will take months and months of planning, preparation. The logistics are going to be an absolute nightmare to be able to cross the English language into Creole as far as the music goes, to be able to do a screen and video to where music can be put up on a screen so that they have words to the music so they can join in when we're in our worship times. The hauling of equipment, the cost of the flight in there and out of there, and then the coordinating of all of the soccer games and the events, breaking it down by ages and stuff. You can begin to imagine how hard and how crazy this can be. But it could reach thousands of street kids for Christ. So we're asking you to pray about that. And we'll see what the Lord does. And if we're right in this vision, that's what he's leading us to do. Again, I want to thank you for the support of this team. I love to take teams in. I've already had several of you come up to me this morning saying, I'm going next time, Rev. I'm just going to go next time. And I'm thinking, okay, because there's a lot of work involved in getting one of these teams together and doing this. And I did tell my wife when I got back, I said, this is the last one I'm going to do by myself. I said, there's too much. There's a lot that I have to take care of when I go and when I'm on the field. I said, I need one person on that field taking care of me. and you're going to go. From now on, I'll not do another one by myself. If I go, she goes. So. Huh? No, there's spiders, roaches, all that kind of stuff. Again, I want to thank you. I want to thank this team. I have seen them grow. I have seen God do so much in their life, and it's always a humbling experience for me to be able to be a part of moving a team into Haiti and bringing them back home. Mike? Oh, I was not screaming, but I'm going to tell you, I saw the spider when I picked the box up. I said, Justin, there's a spider on that box. Watch out. He goes, where? And man drops that box, and he's leaving the building, let me tell you.
I was standing outside the building, and there was 2 Blancs that came running out. There was one Haitian that came laughing out.
Would you stand with me? Huh? Oh, would you be seated? Okay, if you're going to go to Haiti with me, you got to do what I tell you, when I tell you, as I tell you, ask no questions. That's rule number 1. Okay. Huh?
Get out of the way.
What are we doing? Oh, brother. We're going to watch a video right now. Brad's getting ready to start. It has nothing to do with spiders. Brad's getting ready to start a study on Sunday mornings here at the church. Watch the video real quickly, please.
Hi, my name is Chip Ingram with Living on the Edge. I'd like to ask you a question. What do you think about? I mean, what comes to your mind when you think of heaven? Is it streets of gold, angels, in white, a little fog, ethereal picture of things with, singing in this one very long worship service? Or do you have a biblical view of heaven? I have to tell you that after pastoring for 30 years, I'd never studied heaven in depth. And I remember sitting with my father on his deathbed and, having this vague idea. I know Jesus is there and some general ideas like most people. But when I studied what the scripture actually said, it gives hope. It gives perspective. I mean, have you ever asked, what are you going to look like? Who's going to be there? Will there be animals? I mean, where are you going to live? Is it a mansion, a condo, or a hut? I mean, I have to tell you, God's plan for heaven is like earth, exponentially beyond your wildest dreams, better. The deepest satisfaction we will ever experience. But you need to understand why heaven matters, who's going to be there, and how you can experience it. Thanks for joining me on this exciting adventure of heaven. It's not what you think.
If you're interested in that study, I want you to see Brad after the services or go to the resource table. Let the ladies know that you want to be a part of that. Brad's going to be planning that, and that's going to be coming very, very soon. All right? I'm going to leave it up to you, and then I have one more announcement before you leave. Thank you very much. Now, this afternoon at 3 o'clock, we're going to be celebrating the life of Bob Nave, and we're going to be coming and standing with his family. And we're going to be talking about his testimony and his love for Christ and his love for his family. And so we want you to go home, get you a bite to eat, and turn around. I want you to be back here before 3 o'clock. Come in. Let's love on this family. Let's mourn this loss with them and sit with them and support them and encourage them in this time of loss. Bob was very much a part of this church. He served on a ministry team, and I'm going to ask his life group that meets every Sunday morning up in the youth center, when you come to this afternoon, I want you to come to the center section with this family and surround this family and sit with this family and sit close to them and be with them, because Bob loved that life group and he loved being there. So go home, get you a bite, come back and join us again at 3 o'clock as we celebrate the life of one of our very own that we will miss dearly each Sunday when we come through these doors. And then there will be dinner following the service at 3 o'clock. So, church is furnishing drinks and meat. You'll bring just a side dish. And we'll just sit and allow the Lord to deepen our bond and our friendship with one another this afternoon. All right. Let's stand and dismiss in prayer. Father, I want to thank you for the lessons you teach us. I want to thank you for the love that you show us. I want to thank you for the reminders. Reminding that your people are all over this globe and they love you very much and you love them very much. I pray for us as a church. I pray that you would expand us in a way that we could reach more people for Jesus. That we could learn to walk with Jesus. That we would see people saved. We would see people baptized. We would see families healed. Father, we don't want to waste the resource that you have given us. Show us how to use it. Show us how to love as you love. And may our lives matter. And I pray this in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Calling all the messengers, calling all the messengers, calling all the messengers. Can you hear me? Yeah, we've been given a call, been forgiven, risen, we living to give them our all. Rise up from your past that's holding you down. This moment is all that matters, the future is now. How will the people know if we don't tell them? If we fail them, they stumbling in the dark, but the light is what we carry, yeah. Don't have to wonder your purpose or what you here for. Reflect his image and show the world what he cares for. And I know it's alright, right, and you know it's your lie, and we know the time's running out. Can't wait around, cause yeah. Calling all the messengers, calling all the messengers, calling all the messengers. I've been a lot of places where the scene ain't pretty. I've seen plenty of hatred, death, and destruction, where ignorance kills many. The blind leading the blind, we turning a blind eye. That alone is a crime. We got the power of life. I know that we make mistakes, don't let them keep you away. Mercy, love, and His grace, the reason we move ahead. Speak out, though we never been qualified to do it. I ain't earned it, I was loved into it. I'm brand new, yeah. And I know it's alright, right, and you know it's your lie, and we know the time's running out. Can't wait around, cause